Welcome to another episode of Rugby Lives Here, and it is a special one as we feature for the first time a club in Singapore Rugby. So happy to get Gaulois on set with us. Andy and Guillaume, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's a young club, Gaulois, and I'll start with you, Guillaume, because I'd like to know, how did it all start? What was the origin of Golowa in Singapore?
So we go all the way back to 2007 and 2008. And it was the country of origin, which was a tense competition where each player would represent their own country. So that seemed to work out pretty well, and within a few years became the original tour in Bangkok, 2011, and good success on the field and off the field. So much so that decided to continue on that path. The Golowa Tens was then created, and then a team in the championship, and then a team in the premiership, and so that's the growth story of the club.
As the name might suggest, Gaulois is very French. So what is the name? What is the meaning of Gaulois?
Sure. So Gaulois is basically from a cartoon, Asterix and Obelix, which, funnily enough, is Belgian.
Yeah.
But that's not a big part of the story. But it is a cartoon, and it's this little village of resisting Gauls in France, fighting against the invaders. So it was a fun twist, and as part of touring now, every Gaulois gets a Gaulois name. So that's a fun thing that we get to keep, forever. As
club captain, though, have you been with Gaulois from the very start, 2007?
I have not. I actually moved to Singapore in 2014.
Okay.
And a friend who was playing for Gaulois said, you should come and check it out, and it was brilliant. So absolutely delighted.
And for you, Andy, you're one of the lead coaches of the club. How did you get into it?
So that's quite a funny story. So I arrived in 2011 from Sydney originally. Originally from the UK, but via Sydney. And I promised my wife that I wasn't going to have anything to do with rugby other than through my day job at TTS. And it was a friend of mine in the same condo as me, and he said, "Oh, look, you've turned 35 now. Come and have a run with our vets team." Never really looked back. And I think that's testament to the club that somebody that didn't really know actually the rugby scene as well as I might have done initially, and was incredibly welcomed in, and didn't look back really, which is fantastic.
So as a French club, you've also helped out and worked very closely with SRU, the Singapore Rugby Union. How important do you think it is for a club that's international working with the local association?
Oh, I think it's essential. It's essential. I think that the role that any governing body has in any sport, in terms of league structure, training, guidance, guidance and policy making, is absolutely essential. You can't run a sporting structure without leadership from a governing body. And I've got to say, look, my experience with SRU over the last year and a half, particularly through difficult times, has been fantastic. So credit to them.
How's the relationship been over the years?
Yeah, really good actually, and I suppose it's very important because this is a small community. Pretty much everybody knows everybody, and so in order for the spirit of rugby, the values of rugby to be shared and to continue to move, that's what we need. So yeah.
I've also learned that you have like a close link with the Japanese community, so you just do not want to be known as just a French club in essence.
No, I think look. As a club, we're in a period where we need to look to grow. I think in terms of looking forward, in terms of the league structure, and hopefully being able to change to a 6-team structure, which was one of Simon's sort of key plans, which I think is absolutely correct in terms of raising standards. We're in a period where we need to grow. We need to grow our playing base, our infrastructure base, our support base. So we'll look to make connections wherever we possibly can, to be honest. We have a bit of a long-standing link with the Japanese rugby playing community here in terms of fixtures, in terms of touring together with amalgamated sides and stuff, which has been brilliant. And this year we've managed to sort of formally attach ourselves a little more with probably 10 to 15 players coming over to training, which has been great, mixed of ages. And we're looking to expand. We're having hopefully some further conversation with Saints So yeah, we need to grow our playing base, and that's one way we're looking at doing so. Yeah.
And it's not just about rugby for Golowa, because you're giving back to the community as well. I know recently in the SRU's Do Good Send Love campaign, you guys sent volunteers in. So that's a big part of what you're trying to do and grow the sport and giving back to Singapore.
Yeah, there's been a few different charities that we've tried to work with over the years, and certainly as part of being in Southeast Asia, which is we get to go abroad a lot. Yeah. We've always tried to make sure that there was something with purpose that we would bring to whichever communities we were visiting. And here in Singapore as well. So it is extremely important. It's part of the values that we have. It's part of the values that rugby has.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important to be involved.
What's the reception been like for like the local community to see, these expats basically in Singapore giving back to Singapore and local rugby? I mean, that must warm the cockles of the heart, basically.
I think it's good. I think as Gigi said, very very clearly, I think any opportunity you can take to give back to wherever you're based, and then further with tours is important, and I think it just goes along to making those relationships and connections with the wider society that you live in, and I think that's important. So yeah, completely.
Charlie Brown and Simon Mannix have been involved in helping with the club in terms of coaching, in terms of advice. How have they helped? Can you just give us a little bit more info on that?
Well, look, I think especially over the last this COVID period and circuit breaker, it's been a difficult period. I mean, we're under enormous pressure to be incredibly creative in training sessions and incredibly kind of using up all of our creativity really with the groups of 5. But there are some pluses out of that as well that we can take. During circuit breaker, it was fantastic. I mean, Simon and Charlie had managed to arrange kind of Zoom calls with ex-professional players and coaches across the world. Everybody from to Michael Checker to Conrad Smith to a number of others, which was fantastic to listen to and just learn really as much as possible. So, in a time that was very difficult to organise practical things, the time wasn't wasted, which was really lovely. So I think, through a difficult period, they've done a lot to try and support coaches and through this period in terms of their development, which is really good, really good.
And what have you done as a club to help the players during this COVID-19 period? I mean, it must be frustrating for them to be stuck at home. Even now, with just the groups of 5, everyone wants to get out there, get competitive once again. But
we're getting good numbers, right? I mean,
yeah. So I mean, reorganize, I suppose, is the key word. Reorganize, and then both Andy and myself are doing the level 2 coaching at the moment, where we're learning about a lot of that. Being creative and putting everything back on the table periodically, and one of it is simply thinking about the physical aspect, the technical aspect, the tactical aspect, and making sure that we challenge, myself as a player, being challenged by the coach, and generally challenging players to say, look, raise your hand if you want to work harder. We'll give you more things to do. We'll push you in that direction, and there are plenty of people that want to do that. So it's really nice to see, and it means that we have an exceptional turnout in training for the past 10
look,
weeks,
I think
12
it's
weeks.
we've got almost 50 at every session we're running, which is almost the capacity for the group, and basically all we're allowed within the space at the moment. Look, for me, simple principles, as creative as you can be, and have fun. And I think, look, there are things that we've got to take out of this period and go forward, because you've got to take pluses as much as you can through periods of difficulty. And I think there are a lot of pluses actually we can move forward and take into our coaching when we get back to full sessions, or we get back to bigger group numbers, or back to contact. Or don't get me wrong, we wouldn't choose to be coaching in this environment under these conditions. But for some players, they've actually moved on in this period in terms of their individual skill development, possibly more than they would have done in bigger, more open sessions.
Ball in hand all the time.
Yeah, they're getting guaranteed a certain number of touches per session. So we've got to view it as positively as we can, and keep it as interesting as we can. And I think we have. I think our training sessions have been very interesting, and which is what's kept the numbers coming back, which is good.
I have to agree. Have to.
You have to. You're looking forward to that. And when you do come back, the men's league format for the upcoming season, whenever that may be, has changed. It's going to be a top 6. How much are you guys looking forward to that with a new format, and what will be the ambitions of the club?
Look, we can't wait. We can't wait to get back to rugby. And I think I'll speak for the entire rugby community in Singapore. It's something that we miss. We all miss it in our weekly lives.
Yeah.
But as soon as we can get back to it, the better. I think in terms of the 6, as we've said, we want to challenge. As a club, we want to challenge. We're as competitive by nature as any other club in the league.
Yeah.
Ideally we want to win. I think that going to the 6 is a good move. We're going to need some support along the way in order to, which we're starting to get, which is fantastic. But we're going to need, in order to be competitive, we're going to need a little more support. But the reality is, we want to grow, and we want to be as competitive as we can possibly be.
We're definitely looking up to the big clubs, and that's our kind of 5-year plan type of situation. We have, what do we do now? How do we prepare for the upcoming season? We're afforded another preseason. Okay, let's make the best of that. But over the course of 2, 3, 5 years, how do we get closer to where the big clubs are? And one of it is infrastructure. Another one is that they have 100 players to pick from, and they have several teams, and so throughout the course of the club's evolution, we've gone from 1 team to 2 teams. We've created a touch, and then what's next? We have a competitive vets team. So we have to think about what are those plans and what are other doings that is creating their success.
And one of the tournaments that you guys have created over the years has been the Golowa Tens. It wasn't done last year in 2019. Doesn't look like it's going to happen in 2020. But tell us more about the Tens.
Yeah, it's a brilliant format. First and foremost, it's a brilliant format. Lots of space, lots of pace. So my specialty. Definitely not. So it's a brilliant format, and we do it the week before Formula 1 usually. So September, everyone's in a good mood, so we've done it for a few years in a row, and we've had more and more teams signing up, and then we've had more and more age categories. So it was a great success. We haven't been able to do it in very recent times, but it is part of what we do, and you can enjoy a nice bottle of rosé with moderation and some delicacies. So it's a full day for the family.
So is there plans to revive it 2021, hopefully?
As soon as we can. Yeah, as soon as we can.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just give us a little bit more insight into the Tens. You said it's a good introduction into the 15s as almost like a pre-season preparation to go into a 15 season.
I think, look, I love 10s as a format. I think it's a great hybrid between 7s, obviously, and 15s. And that sounds obvious, but it's a game where you've got a lot more roles than you do within a 7s format. So in terms of a warm-up for a season, it works really nicely. So I think, as opposed to running a 7s comp, and 7s rugby in Asia is obviously key, and I get that completely. But when you're going into a 15 season, pre-season, a 10s comp is a fantastic way to open up your season, really. And it's been very well attended. The last few years it's been running very, very well attended with multiple sides from different clubs, vets. We've had an under-19s one as well at some point, I think. Which has been brilliant. So, I love it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And it's been a write-off almost 2020 in terms of sport in general in Singapore, worldwide. What lessons have each of you learned about yourself and about the sport through this tough period?
I think just to take the positives. I think it's very easy through this period to write this period off. As you say, it's very easy to write it off, but I think everybody really has, certainly within our club, has taken a lot of responsibility for everybody else. And I think it's, as a community, you really see how strong your community is through periods of hardship. And, this is sporting hardship, but we're all very fortunate to be in Singapore. And, practically speaking, we've done okay through this virus kind of period. So actually, I think our community stood up for each other, which I think is really nice. Says a lot about the club and the people who run the club, and the values that have been instilled through the years, which I think is fantastic. And also, that's a big reason why we get a lot of numbers to training. People want to come, they want to see each other, and I think. So to take the positives as much as you can, and creativity in training, for sure.
How about you?
Okay. I'd say, finally be afforded the time to have another pre-season. So take things back to their basics and just take a moment to think about how to improve core skills that would make a good rugby player and then a good team, and just put things together. Our club certainly has changed a lot this year. Yep. We have a new president after having 10 years of JC just representing the club and building it from almost nothing, from actually nothing. And it's incredible, the coaching staff, the new people that have stepped up to want to do things, and introduction of new technologies. That's through the SRU, more video, more, I would say more professionalism, more semi-professionalism, because so many of us have, desk jobs. But it's really a transition period, and so we make the best of it, and when we're allowed to go back, then hopefully we're all better for it.
Yeah, as you both mentioned, it's been a tough period, and we want to touch a little bit about mental health, and I know that's something that's very close to your heart. How have your team in general supported the players in the club, and how have everyone banded together in support and to make sure that mental health is part of the priority?
Yeah, look, I think generally, as I said before, during periods of more tougher periods, shall we say, you learn a lot about your community, and I think as a club, we've really stood up for each other, and I think there are a lot of people that I could pick up the phone and just go, look, I need help here, or I need help here, or do you know what, I'm having a bad day, I need to go and talk to somebody about it, come and have a beer. Actually, I think as a club we're very good at that. I think being International Men's Mental Health Day, it's a good time to raise this as an awareness point. I think that we need as a community, as a rugby community as a whole, as a men's community, shall we say, and I don't think this applies for women as well, obviously, but we need to take every opportunity we can take to talk about men's mental health, because it's not something that we do very well or very openly, and the statistics worldwide around men's mental health don't make for very good reading. So it's, if we can take any opportunity to discuss particularly men's mental health, then we've got to take it.
Is it almost like a stigma for males to come out and say, no, I have a problem, and you just try and bottle it up, right? And if I have emotions, I try to bottle it up because I want to deal with it myself, but that's not the way you should deal with a situation.
No, I think you're right. I think it absolutely is a stigma, and I think the statistics would back it up that it's a stigma. I mean, as I say, they don't make good reading. Just in the UK alone, for example, I'll just use UK just because I know those statistics, but just in the UK alone, you're looking at almost 6,000 suicides a year, 75% of which will be male. And, that in itself is an issue that needs discussing. And I think, as a rugby community, there's an opportunity for us as a rugby community, because we are tight, particularly in Singapore, to come together and deal with this as an issue.
Yeah.
We all have our jobs, we all have our, different pressures in life. And actually, the one thing we have in common is our love for rugby, and if we can use that as a vehicle to take forward the way that we deal with men's mental health and opportunities to discuss it, then I think if we can, that would be great.
Yeah, just keep the conversation going. Just don't keep quiet about it. If you have an issue, just speak to a loved one and just let it all out. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. So you're trying to grow Golowa. For people who are interested, first of all, to you, Guillaume, what is the identity of the club? If someone is coming in, what will they enjoy, and what will be the atmosphere of the club?
I think the one thing that we have kept throughout these years is we want to play.
Yeah.
We want to play. And that we can't change. And that's what all of us have. We want to play, we want to go for gaps, we want to have fun, we want to run around, it needs to be fun rugby.
Yeah.
And that's the core of our identity, and that's where you make those little changes as you go along working on it to actually improve, and it pays over the long term enormous dividends. So that's our key identity. Other than that, somebody with a pair of boots, a smile on their face that wants to throw the ball around, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's an incredibly inclusive club. I think, look, anyone can rock up to training at any point. Not at the moment, you've got to register first. But generally, anyone can rock up. And I think that's key for me. That's key. We're very, very open. We'll take anyone.
So if you're watching and you're interested in joining Gaulois, how do they get in touch?
Well, I mean, jump on the Facebook site, really.
Just
pick up a number off the Facebook site. You can ask for my number, you can ask for Judy's number, you can ask for anyone's, and people will get back to you very, very quickly.
Yeah, we're on the social media.
And we do get quite a lot of responses, but it is on at the moment. Training is happening. We're getting good numbers, and it's a lot of fun. So it's get down.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Guillaume and Andy, thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
all the power to Golowa whenever the season does start.
Yes, thank you
Fantastic
very much.
stuff. Thanks to the boys. This has been a great episode of Rugby Lives Here. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m.